Do you have any questions for the studies class? Hello.
No, bro.
Okay. Okay. Then up to yesterday, we have discussed about the data stores. Up to here, we have completed these all options. So now we are going to discuss under security and networking. We are going to discuss about networking. We're starting this networking option. So while creating the storage account, we already discussed about the connection methods to select all networks and select selected networks and use private endpoints. We already see that options while creating the storage account. And if you want to manage that for the allow connections for the accessing, controlling the specific networks, you want to restrict the access for the specific storage account. So here you can able to manage it. Okay, if currently you can see, right, it's been selected for all networks. Okay, so that way you can able to, let me show you. We have yesterday we have mounted the file sheet to machine, right? So anyone tried in the lab?
Azure data migration tool. Right, bro?
No, yeah, I asked you to test this one, right?
It's working for me now.
Okay. Username password is incorrect. Anyone change the password of this access key password? It should not rotate here. Did anyone click the rotate key?
I did that. I'm not able to copy. That's why I did that. After that,
You
I
should
clicked on show keys and take.
If you use this existing key, it will go. It will the key will, the password will get changed. The key will change. Okay. So who are using the existing connection, they can't able to access. So
Okay.
real time you should not use that.
Okay.
Better let me disconnect it and again reconnect it. I will show you that if you have all the networks, so what is the advantage, and if you don't doesn't have all the networks, so what could be the issue. Let me remove and see containers, file share. Let me create a file share. I deleted actually. I'm just creating a file here to remount it and show the difference if you selected all the networks. So how you can access if we have selected only selected networks. So what are the connections you can able to access? Okay. So now I have created the storage account. File share. If it's not showing here, you have to click here, hide show, hide key. You have to, if you are showing, you should click on hide show. If you are not able to see this key, you have to click here show key. Okay, then only we can see, and you have to copy. Okay. Now you can see, right? Now you can able to connect. So now you can able to connect the storage account. So the file share which you have created in the storage account. Okay. Because of why, how it's connecting over the internet. Because of we don't have any dedicated connection from Azure account to his mission, right? So it now you can see now here we are allowed all the networks. So once we allow all the networks, it will allow entire all the network like public and private, all the networks is allow by default. Okay, now you don't want to allow for all networks, you want to restrict from the selected networks. Selected network in the sense, so you have a already existing virtual network range, right? So you can use that. So as I'm just showing here you, like currently you have a your network, like your office network. Okay, so I mean to say, now cloud you have other virtual networks, right? You are going to accessing the storage account to only any specific virtual network, not from the entire environment. So instead of allowing the storage account for all the like all the networks and all the VMs and all the VNets and all the subnets, so we are going to restricting to as part of security. So this storage account I am using only for the specific subnet or specific VNet. So I'm going to allow only for that specific VNet and subnet. So that's why I'm going to use this select option. So that way, apart from this, which are the network I'm allowing here, only that network range and subnet range only users only can access from that resources. So which are the resources are in this subnet or VNet, right? Which suppose you can, this is a free tier subscription, and this is my VNet. Okay, and this is my subnet. Okay, I'm selecting, this is my default subnet I'm selecting. Okay, so and I'm enabling that and adding it. So this service points will it will be enabling, and then we can add this VNet and subnet to in this selected networks. Once you add this VNet and subnet, this storage account will allow only what this VNet and this subnet only. See, now you have added one subnet and one virtual network. Okay, this VNet is in this resource group, and this is the subscription. See, now this is the current the virtual network range you allowed for this uh, storage account. Okay, now after adding, you can save this. Your storage account can't access over the internet. Your storage account can access only in this subnet only. Subnet, if you have a VM, so you can log into that VM, you can access that storage account from this VM, but you can't access this storage account or file share, you can't access from over the internet. Even you can try now. Now just now we have mounted that file share, right? Let me go and refresh it. How it can able to we can able to connect it or not, it will get this. Okay, let me click here. See, now we have clicked here, right? Windows cannot access the file share. See, demo eka I have given as a name, right? See, this is the one, demo eka, right? This one showing Windows cannot access because of you don't have a permission to access. Contact your network administrator to request an access. So now why you are getting this error, you have restricted the access, you are not allowing this storage account access to publicly. So that's why, So we are accessing this share you are accessing over the internet. So now we have restricted here. How you are restricted? You are disabled, you uncheck this all networks and you have selected only selected networks. So what are the networks you have selected here? This storage account can access only this particular network range only. So what are the network range you have selected? In that specific network range only you can able to select. So if you want to check that, you can try to log into the VM which you have spinned earlier, right? You can try that. We need to start the VM. So let it start parallelly and we'll discuss other options. Okay. And I'll show you that if you enable the selected networks, how the same way we have to access in the server, but it will be allow only the selected networks in the VNet. If you have other subnets, you can add other subnets in the same VNet, and you can access the storage account only that selected VNet under the selected subnets only. Yes, do you guys understanding that?
Yeah, bro. Selected network we need to access. Without selected network, no, can't access, right?
See, when you selected this all network option, so
Yes.
can be accessed from anywhere. Okay, you can access
Okay.
this subnet also, and you can access from your local machine also. I'm the storage account can be access my machine also, and can be accessed from anywhere wherever you have internet. You can able to access. So it's been across. It's been enabled the storage account access if you selected this all networks. Okay.
Like public and private, right, bro?
Both it will be. So in organization, it won't allow to access the storage account over the internet. Like it's public access, they don't want to allow the storage account because of the storage account access is in private network. So why I want to allow over the public network? Why I need to allow? And private network also, this storage account is connected only once. I need to. I'm accessing only from one subnet because of the requirement is this storage account is mounted for one of the VM in this subnet. So I want to access only from this subnet. So other than this subnet, the storage account should not access from anyone, anywhere. Okay. For that, how you are going to use? You are going to select that selected networks and you are filtering that VNet and subnet. So that way you can restrict the apart from this subnet. Now none of the from anywhere you can't access this storage accounts. That way you can restrict the access of the storage account. You can access the storage account from this subnet using access key or storage explorer, but that is authentication. The access the storage account using access key or storage explorer or using PowerShell or Azure CLI, that is the authentication method you can use it to access. But to access it won't you are restricting the access to accessing from anywhere. Okay, you can't access once you have selected the selected networks. Only this subnet only the storage account can be accessed now. Much time. So this is the difference between all networks and selected networks. Okay. So now I don't want to provide here, even though selected networks, I want to create a to want to provide more security for this storage account. Because of if you selected networks in the backend, how the storage account is accessing using private IP, how the backend network is using. So one the service I created in the Azure, using that service we are creating a resource in Azure, right? So this is to communicate using the backend network from the Azure. It's using from the public IP in the backend of Azure. Okay, but even though you think like this is not been secure for me, okay, for this case you can create a private endpoint. Okay, this option, once you using this private endpoint connection, you can create a private endpoint. So this private endpoint will create a network interface card for this private endpoint from the selected network. Okay, so once you create a private endpoint with the network interface card, so that time you are assigning the private IP for this network. I mean to say the storage account. So the connections will only get from the within your virtual network. So it's not using the backbone network of the Microsoft. That way, like we have more security for this resources. So for to increase the more secure for the storage account, we can use the private endpoints. Private endpoint is the one of the service actually. This service uses the private endpoint used to make connection the privately to access the resources. So any resources, this private endpoints not only for the storage account, this private endpoints it is there for the key vaults, Postgres databases, web apps, SQL databases. So these all the services you can create a private endpoints to to connect the secure connections for the resources. Okay, so how we
Okay.
create a, what is the difference between these three options then? Now we have a two options here in the firewall and network under the networking. One is all networks and one is selected networks. Once you have selected all networks, this storage account can be allowed from anywhere. You can able to access. If you selected a selected networks, only allowed network. So what are the network you have added here? That network only you can able to access the storage account. Okay. Then one more option is the private endpoint connections. If you create a private endpoint, you can for the storage account. This storage account, the connection is established from the local private IP because of you are assigning the NIC of virtual. You are creating a network interface card from the selected network. Okay, which network you are using. So from that network, the NIC will create. So the connection will establish from the private IP. So that's why you are not using any public IP on the backend network of Microsoft. So that's why when using the private endpoint, the connections is more secure and it's allowing only private connections to access the resources like a storage account from any resources. If you enable the private endpoints, no need to select the selected network. If you selected or not, you can able to access your all VNet subnets, or you have a 5 virtual networks. Okay, and we have number of subnets. You, by default it will allow for all subnets on all VNets because of you have a peering connectivity, the connectivity virtual network connectivity you have, right? So one virtual network VMs you have to access from another virtual networks. So that for that you have created a peering, right? So for that, so all your Azure virtual networks you can able to access. Apart from that, it will not allow any connections to access this storage account if you enable the private endpoint connections. Let me refresh this and let me create the private endpoint parallelly. So I'm just creating the private endpoint. So how we are going to create a private endpoint, how you are assigning the private endpoint connection to the storage account. Okay.
Okay.
To secure the to provide secure connections for the storage account. Okay. So this is the subscription and resource group, and I'm giving the private endpoint name here. I'll give the storage name as a private endpoint name. Let me copy the storage name. Okay, once I click the private endpoint, it's showing the basic information, subscription resource group, and I'm giving the private endpoint. I'm adding the PEP storage account name and PEP private endpoint, and I'm giving the same reason. I'm going clicking on the next for the I'm going for the resource. So here you are going to define the what is the target resource you are going to creating the private endpoint. So we are using the creating a private endpoint for the file share. So I'm creating the file share. If you are creating the file share for the blob, then you have select the blob. Okay, and you are selecting the target sub resource. Here we have just see subscription resource type. By default it will come the which resource. This is the storage account, and under the storage account we have the sub file system file sub resource called a we have these are the options. You have a web app or DFS and file, queue, table, and blob. So for these are the ones you can create a private endpoint. Okay, so currently we are creating the for file we are creating a private endpoint, and we are clicking on the next. So currently we have the default VNet which we have created for the VM. So these are the VNet and subnet we are using. So once you selected here the networking option, your NIC will network interface code will get create in this subnet, and it's assigned to this one of the IP for this private endpoint. Okay, and here we have a option called integrated with private DNS zone. So currently we don't have any private DNS zone. So why you need this option? Let me explain you. Suppose if you want to access with the FQDN, so you need a DNS. You have a custom DNS, then you can create that DNS records in the custom DNS once you have created a private DNS zone in the Azure. So you don't have any custom DNS. You want to use the private DNS in the Azure DNS you want to use. So you can create a DNS zone for each resource. So currently you can see, right, the name private link.file.co.windows.net, right, like this. So what are the sub resources which you see, right? So for all resources you have to create a private DNS zone like this. So once you create a private DNS zone, you can able to access the using FQDN name. With this name you can able to you can able to access the resources. Okay, let me give yes. So because of currently we don't have, right, so let me give to create a private DNS. If you already existed you can give here, or if yes you can selected that specific. Actually it will ask you to select here, and normally we used to do select no. After creating you can add the DNS configuration. Okay, let me select yes to create now currently, so we don't have anything, and let me proceed for the tags. Okay, so this option is to resolve the names. Okay, how we are using the DNS server, right, like that we are using for the Azure DNS zone to resolve the names. This is very important. Okay, and we are going for the tags. So this is just to identify the giving the names to identify the which private endpoint and why you are using it. Okay, and then we are going for review the current selected options, and we are going to preview the we are going to create the private endpoint. Parallelly, let me go to this tab and we'll see. We'll power it up the VM. I don't know why it's showing the screen. it's taking time to, it's not only creating the private endpoints, right? It's creating a private DNS zone. So that's why it's taking time. I think it's creating now.
When you create an endpoint, can power up, bro? VM, or you can power it.
This is a separate service actually.
Correct.
So you are creating a private endpoint, and that private endpoint is created in a selected network. So you have selected a network, right? Which subnet and which VNet and which subnet. So in that private endpoint is creating. So what is the requirement in the private endpoint? While creating a private endpoint, it create a network interface card. So which network you have selected, from that network is picking the available IP and creating the network interface, and then it will create a private endpoint. So the private endpoints works on the based upon the private IP, the NIC actually. So this is now private endpoint. Looks like this is the private endpoint. See the whole storage account, and we have given a PP private endpoint. That way we have defined. So this private endpoint is in this VNet and subnet. Okay, this is called the NIC, network interface card. Okay, and this is the private link source. Okay, it's linked to this source. This is the storage account we have linked, right? The private endpoint where we have created in this storage account only, we have created the private endpoint. See, this private endpoint linked to this storage account, and this is the network interface card, and this private endpoint is created in this VNet and subnet. Okay, from this subnet you will get this IP. So how you can see this IP of this NIC, I will tell you. You can directly go for the DNS configuration. You can see actually. So you have created, you have selected to create a DNS zone also, right? So here you can see the DNS zone also. See here the private DNS zone name, and this is the private IP now. Okay, so using this IP, you can able to access a storage account also. You can give the suppose applications you want to integrate the storage account. So you can use this IP also to integrate the storage account to, or you can use this FQDN name. Okay, using this FQD name, you can able to access the storage account, or you can integrate using any applications. You can give this name as a host name. You can, it can resolve the FQD name also. Because of why it will host name and IP will get resolved, because of we have created a private DNS zone. With this, it will resolve the IP to name and name to IP. Okay, and now we have created, right? Let me so you have any doubt here actually? So if it is not, you don't have sorry, we don't have that private DNS zone, so that's why we have click as yes to create a private DNS zone also while creating a private endpoint. Suppose you don't want to create a private DNS zone for each storage account. While creating a private endpoint, you don't want to create a like private DNS zone. So if you without private DNS zone, if you create a private endpoint, after that how to like add a private DNS zone, in the sense, once private endpoint is created, you can go for the DNS configuration and click add here. Here you can select the DNS zone. Okay, private DNS zone. Currently we have this, because of now we have selected to create, because of we don't have existing. So while creating a private endpoint, we selected to yes to create a new DNS zone. So it created. maybe if in your organization you can see number of. So now we have only private DNS zone for only file. So in blob, SQL, key vault, okay, blob, okay, database. So like that we can create number of to segregate with the based upon the service. So whenever you created a, now we have created a storage file share storage account, we create a private endpoint. So we choose as a private link dot file code dot windows.net. Okay, suppose if you choose blob, then you have to choose the private link dot blob dot core windows.net. That private DNS you have to choose in your organization. It will be a separate private DNS zone for each resource. With respect to private DNS zone, you have to select while adding in the DNS configuration. Okay, so let me show you in another resource, then that time I will explain you the difference. Okay, let me go for the storage account now. Otherwise let me connect. I have restricted right now. So now what we have did in the storage account, the network we have selected a selected network, and we have created a private endpoint to allow only storage account to access in this particular subnet. In this subnet only we have allowed. So this VM is there in this subnet. So I'm just trying to connect to this VM to take the RDP and try to connect VM and try to access the storage account if it can able to access or not, because of we have allowed this subnet to access the storage account, right? So I'm just trying to verify you can able to access the storage account in this VM. You got it what I'm trying to explain you guys here. If you go for okay. Okay, so what I'm going to explain you here, I want to show you another method. So when we have when you selected all the networks, you can able to access the file share. Once you disable this the file share all networks, you can't able to access that what we showed in the here. Okay, because of your file share is not able to access. Why? Because you are restricted the all the network, like public access you are restricted while selecting the selected networks. While selecting the selected networks, your storage account access you are allowing only for this subnet. Which subnet? This subnet. So in this subnet, we are allowed to access the storage account. So what I'm going to try to check now, you allowed you disabled public and private, and you only allowed the privately only for this subnet is being allowed for the storage account. So I have a VM in this subnet. I'm trying to log into that VM and trying to access that file share. I can able to access or not. I'm going to test it. So that is the what you are looking, right? So why you have provided added this virtual network on subnet? You are allowing this storage account only for this subnet. So if you allowed, you should check, right, if it's accessing or not. Once you allowed as a Azure admin, user want to try to access. So that way I'm going to do it. I'm verifying that you have allowed the access for this subnet to access the storage account. So I'm logging into verifying that I can able to access the storage account from this VM. So currently you are not able to access from this my laptop. I'm not able to access the file share because of you disable the public access. You got it, guys? Any confusion here? You make the difference, right? If you selected all the networks, it will allow both private and public. All the networks it will allow. So when you allowed this, you can able to access the file share from anywhere. So even I was configured here, right? It was working. So now it was not working. Why? So I disable the public network. I only allow privately. Even private, I am allowing only for this network only. Means I am defining the in private also should not go all the networks privately. Only I am allowing that privately also only for this subnet. Means now currently this storage account allowed only from this subnet. What are the, maybe in this subnet you have 100 or 20 VMs or 40 VMs. Only that 40 VMs only can access the storage account. Apart from that, you can't access from anywhere the storage accounts. So that is the option you can use for selected networks. We want to restrict the access to access from anywhere, and you have to allow only for selected networks. Then you can use for the selected networks, and you can add using the add existing virtual networks. Okay, that way you can allow the storage access for the selected networks.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't want these two options, you want more secure, because if you selected these two options, the storage account are using the backbone network in the Microsoft, so it's using for the private IP, sorry, public IP. So even you want to restrict that using the private public IP of the storage account in the backend, so you're not believing that maybe it will chances to compromise that when you are accessing the storage account. So you don't want to be you thought that that is not more secure. So if you want to implement more secure, then you have to, third option is private endpoint connection. Okay, once you want to enable more secure, then you have to create a private endpoint. So what is a private endpoint? Private endpoint, it will allow you the connection privately to access your resources securely. So it's creating a separate, it will allow privately. Why? Because it won't use the backbone azure backbone network of Microsoft, because of you are creating the network interface for this private endpoint. So the connection will get established from the only using private network. So it's not going to allow to send the backbone network of public IP of Microsoft or other network is not using. So it's using the connection sending from only in the private networks. That's why this private endpoint connection is more secure compared from the other connections. So whenever this private and these options, this networking options very important. If you not understand, let me know. Okay, these three options very important. Organizations, they will follow these two options: selected networks or private endpoint. Some cases the project or some that application required to access the public that storage account, that time they will choose this option, allow all networks. Okay, if even my storage account want to access internet over the internet, but should not there is a specific IP I have, and it has to be allow only that specific IP over the internet, but should not be all the networks. So if you allow this all networks, anonymous user also can able to access if you know the username, like access key and user storage account name and access key. So but you want to allow publicly, but it should be some specific IPs. For that case, you can allow here, sorry, here you can add the public IPs here. Okay, that way you can allow only specific public IPs. Also you can allow storage account access. Okay, guys, you understand that?
Yeah, yes, bro.
If you not understand
Right.
that, 100% I will ask you the questions for tomorrow. This, because of this is more important. Interview also 100% they will ask. So what is a private endpoint? Okay, if you want to, they will, in this case they will ask you the scenario based questions. Okay,
Okay.
if my storage account I have I have my storage account is I'm not able to access, so how you can check it? So maybe you are accessing the private or public. Okay, I'm accessing privately, so I don't know why I not able to access. You can go and check here. So your storage account is not allowed publicly, so you can't able to access your storage account publicly. Okay, your storage account is selected, it's been enable the selected networks, and it's allowed only for this specific VNets and subnets. So your storage account can be accessed only this selected networks only. So that way, so user, where you are accessing, from where you are trying to access. Okay, how you are going to trying to
At
access?
the time, how we can suggest user, bro?
Sorry,
In that case, how we can suggest user to access the
you can tell them user. So how, from which network you are trying to access? If you tell that IP from which machine, which virtual machine or which network he is accessing, then you go and see here. So that which he is telling that subnet range and that range, the public IP or private range is allowed or not here. If it is not allowed, you tell him boss, that which where you are accessing that network, the storage account is restricted, so you can't access from that network. The storage account currently you can access from only this network range only.
Okay.
Okay. This is one option to restrict the access, and third option is private endpoint. So what is a private? First, what is a private endpoint? Private endpoint is a it will create a it will allow only private connections using network interface card. So why it's been more secure using private endpoint? In the sense, for this private endpoint we are creating as in we are creating a network interface card. That interface card we are creating in our own virtual networks, means which we have created the virtual networks, right? That virtual network we are creating a network interface card and we are assigning to these private endpoints. That's why your connections is more it's very secure, and it's not allowing from the even Azure backbone also. You're privately creating the secure connections for your resources. You got it right? Private endpoints, it's creating the secure connection to allow private connections. Okay. So if you create a private endpoints, you can access your storage account, not only here selected VMs, it will be sorry, not only selected subnets, it will be access entire your like your environment. Like you have a in Azure we have a number of virtual network number of VMs, right? So all the VMs you can able to access, but that comes as a secure connection using the private IP. Apart from that, this your virtual your network range, apart from your network range, you can't able to access from anywhere. Okay. So why you're calling as a more secure? Even it's not using the Azure backbone network, it's using for your own private network. So that way you're calling it a more secure. Okay. You have to explain that once you create a private endpoints, the connections will establish in your virtual network only because of your assigning the private IP of that endpoint of the storage account. So your connections will be securely it's been establishing using your private endpoint. Okay. If you want to create private endpoints, here you only can create as we created earlier, right? So same thing. Okay. So now let me create a we can create another private endpoint also, but we have to, if we can create a blob also, but you have to create a private zone actually. So let me create for other next time we'll create for another storage account, we'll create for the file private endpoints, or we can create for the SQL PaaS database. When we are doing talking about the PaaS services, we'll explain for other services. Okay. You guys know right now what is the difference between all networks, selected networks and private network?
Yes, bro.
So this is very important. Okay. So when I'm going to discuss the option, I'm going to tell what is what, then that's not going to use for the day-to-day activities. When I'm giving the scenarios more and I'm stretching it, then that going to comes the activities as a daily activities. Okay. You have to like where and all I said important, you should be very careful. If you have anything, you should be asked on that time only. So I'm trying accessing from the server. Okay. Because of we have restricted the access, right, for only this subnet. So this subnet have access currently the storage account. So that's why I'm trying to accessing here. Do you understand, right, what I'm trying to achieve here? Hello guys, do you understand what I'm trying to show you?
Yes, bro. You are accessing that storage.
Accessing storage account, why I'm accessing from the VM before I access from the main, why I'm showing VM?
You change some networks.
We have selected the
Subnet.
we have used the selected networks and created
Yes.
endpoints. So it will be allowed only in the private. It won't allow in the public. My machine is in the its access can be access only public, right? So the public is disabled. That's why now you are getting this error. So you are not able to access my file share. That's why I'm
Okay.
trying to access the private network. Private network in the sense, my VM is the private network, right? That if we, what is the private IP of that? My VM is in private network, right? So currently it doesn't have any public IP of this VM, correct? You
Yes.
see, I will show you that. Okay, currently my VM doesn't have any public IP. You see, public IP is nothing. Okay,
Yes.
I have only private IP. This is my private IP. Okay, this is my private IP of the VM. Okay, so now I'm trying to access in the privately. Okay, now you can see you can able to access the storage account here.
Okay.
Got it? What I'm trying to say. Now you are able
Yes,
to
yes, got it.
see file share, but you are not able to access the file share over the internet. Okay, because of why? Because you are not able to access. You have restricted the in the networking, restricted the selected networks and private network. Even if you not this option, either one option you have to select. If you select this option, it will not. If you enable the private endpoints, all your any virtual network, from any VM, you can able to access the storage account. But 100% it will be more secure because of the connection will establish from the private IP. Okay. So this way we have verified. Okay. Now let me go and I want to show you. I'm going to enable all the networks. Okay. Okay. So again, I want to show you how we can. Let me save it.
I have one doubt, bro. In firewall and virtual network, we selected all networks. In when you create private endpoint connection, when which one is working, bro? Like private endpoint network connection is working.
All the networks. It will take by default all the networks. If you have private endpoints or not, if it will take all the networks.
Okay, so when you creating private endpoint connection, then you can select a network, right?
Yes, you should not allow for all networks. Yes.
No, bro. ఇక్కడ ఆల్ నెట్వర్క్స్ ఉంది కదా, ఆల్ నెట్వర్క్స్ క్లిక్ చేసినప్పుడు ప్రైవేట్ ఎండ్ నెట్వర్క్ క్రియేట్ చేయకూడదు. ఓన్లీ సెలెక్టెడ్ నెట్వర్క్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసినప్పుడే మాత్రమే మనం ఎండ్ పాయింట్ కనెక్షన్ వర్క్ అవుతుంది క్రియేట్ చేసినప్పుడు.
వాయిస్ బ్రేక్ అవుతుంది.
వన్ సెకండ్. ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ ప్రైవేట్ సెలెక్టెడ్ నెట్వర్క్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసిన కదా బ్రో.
ఓకే.
సో అది సెలెక్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు మాత్రమే ప్రైవేట్ ఎండ్ పాయింట్ కనెక్షన్ వర్క్ అవుతుందా?
అవును. So when you are disabling all the networks, if you selected networks, or if you once you selected a selected networks, you don't need to select also. So directly you can create a private endpoint. Okay, it will work. It will allow only all the networks. If you selected networks also, if you select, doesn't matter. It will work all your private network. It will work by default. Okay, you don't need to create select all the networks here. If you create a private endpoint, all your private network range, it will you can able to access the storage account.
Okay, that time no need to select all network, only selected network.
See, if you select all networks, it will be allow both all private and public networks. Okay. If you this, if you not created a private endpoint, if you selected only selected networks, then you have to define that which network you want to allow.
Yeah.
Okay. If you selected this, again you have created a private endpoints, then doesn't matter here which network you selected. Okay. Once you create a private endpoint, internally in your virtual network range, it will allow for all the resources by default. If you have a private endpoint and selected networks. If private endpoint is not created, you have selected a selected networks, then you have to define the which VNet and subnet to allow the storage.
Okay, any one is working that time.
Yes. Okay, now see, here also accessing storage account and here also accessing the storage account. So now see, publicly and privately both able to access the storage account. Okay? So when you have selected all the networks, you can able to access both privately and publicly. Okay. So,
bro, actually what understand means if we select all networks, we can access the file from anywhere, right? I mean public,
yes,
VMs, private, anywhere we can access.
yeah.
Okay, if we select, bro, your voice is very low, bro. I'm not able to.
Yes, yes, yes.
If we select selected networks, whatever we mentioned under the selected networks, 1, 2, 3, 4, they can access.
Yeah, from those selected net 1, 2, 3 networks only you can access the storage.
Access. If we select selected networks, then what about the private endpoints? It will not connect, right? Private endpoints connections.
No. See, if you selected the selected
Hmm.
now I select
This
one VNet and one subnet. Okay.
correct.
Your storage account access from only from this range only.
Hmm.
If you maybe in this range you have 10 VMs. From that 10 missions only you can able to access the storage account. Apart from the 10 missions, you can't access from anywhere.
If we give another network in the private endpoint, that is also will not work.
Yeah, it will work. If you add one more virtual network, then it will work. That also it will work. If you try to again, if you have another virtual network, you just to check this and you have to add it. That's it.
Okay. So if we select selected networks, in that case, private endpoint connection is not selected. It's disabled, like it's disabled, right? Like
Yeah, if you selected
it
this,
will not work.
if you are not created this private endpoints for that no problem. Only selected networks only it will allow for the storage account access.
So
If
okay,
you
these
selected,
three options are individual to each other.
yes. If
Okay.
you selected a selected networks and if you create a private endpoints, it doesn't matter which networks you have selected here.
Okay.
Once you create if you selected networks and you created a private endpoints, okay, it will ignore this. It will take the precedence of this private endpoint. Not only for these networks, we have maybe 5 virtual networks, 1 2 3 4 5 virtual networks. Okay, in that each network you have five subnets. Okay, so all 5 virtual networks can be allowed by defaultly when you create a private endpoint.
Okay. In that case, if we have selected network option, private endpoint connection also is same, right? Both
Selected
like
option, it will work only when private endpoint is not created. That time only it will work for the selected networks. If you selected a selected networks, then if you not created a private endpoints, then this will work. Only selected networks only can be allow the storage account. If you selected networks, then create a private endpoint. It will allow all your virtual networks and subnets in your environment.
so we can't select both. I mean, selected networks and private endpoint. We can't select both at a time, right? Only we can select.
Yes, because of you can't select only private endpoints. This is all together. If any one you have to select, then only you can go for the private endpoint. Directly, you don't have other private endpoints. We have to select this and then you have to go private endpoint. If you select this, if you go private endpoints, there is no use of private endpoints. But default, it will work for all the networks. Okay, if you select this and you create a private endpoint, first preference is going to take this. Private endpoints, it will not work. So that's why you are selecting the selected networks. And then if you create a private endpoint, so it will allow all your private networks. Okay, if you don't want to allow all my private networks, it has to restrict only my one subnet. Then you can select the selected networks and you can add that specific VNet and subnet.
Just for example, in selected networks, I gave range like for 10 VMs. In private endpoint, I gave range like only 5 VMs.
You can't
In
give
that case,
as a range. You have to select subnet.
yeah, subnet only. I'm saying for subnet, I have given 10 VMs. I'm having in the subnet in the selected networks. I have created endpoint for 5 VMs only.
No, you endpoints not. You can't create it like a 5 VMs or 2 VMs. The endpoint is a one service. If you enable that service, it will be allowed. While enabling that service, it will create a one network interface. So using that network interface, it's creating the secure connections. That's it. It's not matter of 5 VMs you are creating the private endpoint. Private endpoints is the one connection method. That is the one service.
Okay.
See, that is not for the 5 VMs or 2 VMs. Once you enable this service, it's been impacting, it's been applying for all the VMs. It's not for 5 VMs or 10 VMs. All the networks can be able to access the storage account if you enable the private endpoints. That's only internal. It should not be external and it's more secure. How is more secure in the sense? Because of you're assigning the private IP. So your all connections establishing from the private IP. That's why it's more secure.
So not with public IP.
Yes. So when you selected the all networks and selected networks, you are not assigning any private IP. So in the backend, they're using the public IP.
Okay. In selected networks, we can use public IP also.
That no, we are not using. That's been designed for the Microsoft back. See, from the all, it's coming as a service, right? The service is how you are accessing from the over the internet. It will be in backend. There will be a public IP. Okay. So that you don't want to use, then you have to use the private endpoint connections.
Okay.
Okay, this is what the networking. This is the one important, and one more is access keys. So what is access keys? So already we discussed, if you want to access your storage account, you can use the this access key, one or two you can use, and if you can use the connection string also based upon your requirement. Suppose some database you want to connect, integrate the storage account, you can use this connection string. Okay, or you want to use there are the two methods, connections methods. Okay, either you can use the access key or connection string. Some of applications or some thing it won't require the key, it's required a connection string. Okay, that time we have to use the connection string method. Okay, so whenever you want to access a storage account, either you can use the access key or connection string. Okay, based upon that, here we have two, one is key one and key two, either you can use. Okay, this is one method to access the storage account using access key. Okay, and one more is shared access signature. So what is a shared access signature? So this shared access,
Bro, what is the key one
so
and key two, bro?
key is like a password of that account.
Okay, key two.
Password of your storage account.
It's daily updated, bro. Means key one, key two, like.
Permanent. It will be permanent. Okay, it will be permanent. If you want to set as a rotation reminder, so you can set and you can change it. How you are going to change? If you click a rotate key, the new key will get update. But you should not do this. Okay, if you your storage account is created from 1 year before, and by mistakenly if you rotate this key while click this, all passwords will get changed. Once the password is get changed, so what are the who are the users you are using the from last 1 year, all connections will get broken. Again you have to new key has to share to them to access again the storage account. So you should not, until notify them the user, you should not rotate the key. Once you rotate, if you can see this key, right, this is a permanent key. Until you rotate, this key only will exist every day. This key is not going to change for every day. Okay, this is a permanent key only. So once you access,
No, and don't 1 day ago and second one is 0 days ago, like it's daily creating or
no, it's not going to change this key. It's a permanent. So this is, you can set that last rotated. You can rotate that. Okay, see someone has rotated 1 day ago. See, you can rotate the key, but you can't. But which one? If you until rotate it, the key won't change. That becomes a permanent. If you done the manual, then only it will, the key will change. Okay. Once you access the storage account using access key, that user have the full permission of the storage account. And until this key rotation, the user have the full permissions until the life. So suppose I have given the storage username and access key for you. So you can use this. You can able to access the storage account. So lifelong. So there is no expiry. You have full admin access for the storage account. So if I rotate the key, then the connection will broken. So again, you need a new key. So you have not rotate this key, then you can, until the storage account exists, you can able to access from long. Okay, this is one.
okay. Once you generate that key, that one you can use it lifetime.
Yes. Okay. So this is one method you are going to access a storage account. Yesterday I showed you, right, how to access using the access key to the storage explorer, and mounting also we have done it. So using storage account, we have mounted file share using access key, and we have connected the storage explorer using access key only. Okay. So that once you are connected using access key, you have an admin privileges. So you don't have any ACL control, means like access control list you don't have here. So you will get the full permission of the storage account. Okay. So that's why to control that, have a limitations of the permissions and expiry of the access, we can use here shared access signature. We can able to restrict the ACLs here while providing the access, and you can set the end of the life of the access for those account. Okay, here you can see you can allow what like type of service, a blob, file share, or queue. If you want to allow, so you can just tick mark for that. Okay, if you want to access file share, that user, you can give the file, and you want to inside the file you need allow for the other resources also object. You can allow that, and you can what level of access you need. So you need read, write, delete, and list, and create and update. So that if you have delete and create, then it will get all this. Okay, okay, list is there, then we can create an update and process. Okay, and we have a full permission you can give. Otherwise you can, you don't want to create a new one and you don't want to delete, and you want to just write and listen and list and read, then you can give this permission. And here you can set this when it has to be expired. So from when you are giving the access, so today 13th I'm giving access from this time, you can set the time zone, and it should be expire on one after next month 13th. Okay, till May 13th. So that way you can set this uh, time, start time and end time. So you are giving the 1 month access for this. So you can generate the you can give that, and you can here you can create the SAS token here. Okay, here this connection a string or SAS token you have to give to that user. So using this, they can able to access the storage account. Once they are accessing, it will be expiry automatically. Once this date comes, 5th month 13 date comes with this time, automatically the storage account will get disconnected. After that, the connection this token, it won't work to access the storage account. So for this to expiry, if you want to, there is a other users, other like a third party team has joined with you to support one of the project, and they'll be in 1 month or 2 months. Okay, for them you don't want to provide full access. So for that, for them you can create a shared access signature. Here you can list the services and access permissions and expiry of that key, and you can generate the SAS token and connection string, and you can share them. So this way they can able to access the storage account, and post that the expiry they can't able to access the storage account. Okay, these are the they will ask you the what is the access key and what is the shared signature. What is the difference between these two? So you can tell them access key don't have any uh, like expiry of the key. So once you provide the access key has been shared to the user, they have the full access. They can do modify all the control they can do, delete or update or create. And until you rotate the key, they have a full permissions. They can able to access the storage account until the storage account exist. Okay, if you're coming to the shared access key, so you can set for the access ACL control and which are the service you want to provide access, and you can set for the expiry of the that SAS token. So once you set for that, you can generate the SAS token. You can share the SAS token to access the storage account. Okay, once that expiry exceeded, in your storage account will get disconnected. So this is called the differences. They'll ask you in the interview also this. Okay. Any questions? Unless you guys is understanding or not, tell me, and then I will explain again. Again. See, access key.
Yeah, bro. In access key, you don't have any lifetime.
The access key, if you share the access key them, so then you will get the full access. The user have the full access. So you don't have here to set the what permissions you have to provide for that storage account. Okay, and this we have shared the access key, then you have admin of that storage account. You have full control. And here we can set the expiry also, and we can set the ACL also, access control list also. You can specify like write permission, read permission, or delete permission. You can set for that. Okay.
When you selected all whatever you want permission, then you can click on generate SSC, bro, and on it.
Yes, we have to generate a SAS token. Yes. Once
So that time it will work all permissions, right?
once you selected this date only, then only you can see that this one will get generated. I don't want to block. Yeah. Users then you can generate it.
Okay.
They can use, while connecting the storage account, they can use this connection. They can able to access. They can that way you can have a control of the. You don't want to. If user is that cases, it will be useful this no fast account. So they are accessing for only 1 month. Okay. If you give the access key, if after 1 month, how you are going to control them, user should not use. So there is no controlling measure. If you create a storage account, if the specific one user you want to control, so you can't control. So for that, you are going to use this. So here you have a controlling. So you can set for the expiry. You don't need to once after 1 month, you don't want to set a reminder or something and come here and you can remove that. Okay. You set for expiry automatically. Okay, that way automatically you can remove the access for the users. Okay. And this is encryption. We have already discussed that we have a encryption two types, like we can use the default encryption or you can use the custom managed encryption keys. So to manage the encryption. So normally we used to follow for the Microsoft managed encryption key to encrypt your protect your the data which you are stored in the storage account. If you want to use the custom encryption key, then you have to create a key vault here. From that key vault, you have to select the like a key here. Okay. For that, the key will store into the key for generation. The key will store into the key vault. So whenever you want to like later you want to decrypt that, then you have to use that key here, right? You have to create a key vault. Then you have to generate a key. Once click it will generate, it will get create a key here. Let me click here. First you have to create a key vault, then only.
So it will work like secure, right?
Sorry.
It will work like secure if you want to key.
Yeah, like if you want to secure more, so like your data has to be encrypted. What is mean by encryption? First you want to know what is mean by your laptop should be encrypted. Do you know that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, because of you can't able to access the data from out. So you can't use the encryption with the disable the ports and everything your laptops, right? So that way they are going the protection. So like that you are protecting the storage account data you are encrypting. So you can able to access you, okay, from this account like account or Azure environment, you can able to access without decrypting. Suppose someone is trying to access that data and you copied and you have to paste it in his network or some machines, and if you try to open that, it won't work because of you have encrypted the data. Until you decrypt, you can't see the data.
Yes,
That in your laptop also you have you can able to access files and data and you can move whatever you do operations you do. Okay. And if someone hacked that your laptop and you're trying to copy the data, they can able to copy. Okay. If they been compromised in the network, they can able to copy, but they can't see the data until decrypting that using that key. You can't able to see that. So that management, if you want to manage from by yourself, then you want to create a key vault, then you can generate the key here. That key will store in the key vault. So that way that this storage account is going to be encrypting. Okay. Post encryption, post encryption, that key will be stored there only in the key vault. You have to define the right naming standards, for this, so you can identify in future if you want to decrypt. If you lost that key, even Microsoft also can't help you to decrypt that storage account or disk or whatever it could be. So that's why you have to keep more secure. So normally all organizations will use the Microsoft managed keys only. If the customer you want to use the customer management key, then you want to select this and you have to go for like key vault and key, and you have to select this and you have to create a recovery key vault here. Here you have to go for, here you want to create a new key vault, and post key vault creation you have to create a new key, then key will get created and it will store in the key vault. So that way your copying the key into the key vault and protecting that. That way it will work for the encryption. Okay. So normally we use for the Microsoft managed keys only. Okay. And we already discussed about this security option. This is just, it's going to be a security center. This all the services is going to recommend it as per the security standards. If you have any not met, what is your resource compliance score? So now we can see if you can enable that storage account. If you want to protect more, then you can enable the Windows Microsoft Defender for the storage account also. This is the service is been available. And for the antivirus, okay, Defender, you know, right, Microsoft Defender. So that we can enable for the storage account also. And you can see their recommendations here. You have a 3 recommendations here. The storage account should be used private link connection. So they are recommending you to use the private endpoint connection, okay, and to make your storage account should be more secure, okay. And they are asking one more recommended, the storage account should be restricted network access using the virtual network rule. So that we have selected, right, selected network. So using that, you can select the virtual network, you can able to restrict the accessing the storage account. That way you can protect from the your storage account access, okay. And one more is the storage account public access should not be should be disallowed. Means they're allowing storage public access of the storage account should be disallowed. It's not recommended to allow over the internet to allow the public access of the storage. So this way that it's been recommendations, it's been giving that. The same like that, the advisory also it will give. Think it will be available advisory also. Here also it will be some kind of advisory, it will be available for the storage account. How we have the security, same like that. Okay, this is what the security. And what is the geo replication here? So do you remember that we are discussing about the geo replication, LRS, GRS, ZRS? Guys, do you remember that? We have discussed while creating a storage account. So
Yes, brother.
hardware failures, and ZRS will be data center failures, and GRS will be the regional failures. Okay. So now GRS is the option. If we have a, see, when you have a, see, currently the storage account is LRS. So if you the storage account has been LRS, the geo replication, it won't be supported for your storage account. What is mean by geo replication in the sense? So your current storage account is there in the South India. Suppose if this region goes down, South India service entirely down, so you're not able to access the storage account. So due to some reason, due to some disaster, it happened, like floods or whatever it could be, the entire service goes down in the data centers of South India. So for that, to high availability, you can enable the geo replication. So one of the copy, it can be make them available into the another location, like in West India or another US or UK, wherever it could be. In the secondary location, this is now currently primary location, and you make available in the secondary location. So the data same storage account, it will be available in the another region. Okay. So if you fail, then you can fail over the the storage account. So then change that when you do the failover, the storage account primary region becomes second region become a primary. So then you can bring that your storage account to online. So if you, what is the requirement if you want to enable a geo replication? To you want to enable a geo replication, the geo replication should be in GRS. Okay, the storage account should be redundant, should be in GRS. Then only it will support for the replication. So currently is in redundancy is in LRS, so it won't support for the geo replication. How you can enable if you want? So currently when you create a storage account, so you the user is requested to ask you to set as a LRS. Okay, in later stage, so that is a critical data and they need geo replication they want to enable. Okay, so that the user is asking to enable the geo replication for the storage account. So once we want to enable the geo replication, what is the prerequisite? This storage account should be in redundant, should be in GRS. Then only you can enable the geo replication. How you now your account is created from long back. Now how you can change to LRS to GRS? For that you have to go for the store configuration. Okay, and here you can change the configuration of the storage account. Okay, Here you can change to GRS or GeoGRS. Okay, let me change it to now GRS and let me save it. So now I'm changing the redundance to the GRS to enable the replication. Okay, now I have updated the GRS for this redundant. Let me go for this geo replication. You can see it's been by default, it's been available. You can use for this. Okay, for for the second reason you can use for this. Let me go for the endpoints. So these are the endpoints. We will discuss later for the endpoints. I don't want to talk about here. Okay, endpoints. Failover cannot be it to be initiated because of initial data sync from the primary to secondary is in progress. Failover will be available when sync is completed. Click here for more information. So we have enabled the geo replication from South India to Central India currently. So the storage account we don't have like available option to choose it actually. So it's been taken by randomly the nearby location actually. So we have a this options we have for storage SQL databases. For that we can choose the available options actually for geo replication. Okay, like you have a UK West and then you can choose a UK South like that. Okay, so now data is replicating to the central India, so that's why it's been not available for the failover. So okay, once this data is synced between the storage account, you can do the failover. Failover, you don't know, right? You know, right, what is failover? Hello.
Yeah, bro.
So the failure in the sense you are changing the from primary to secondary. So if something goes in the primary region, the storage account is not able to access from South India. So that time you're trying to fail over this. So same data is being available your storage account in the Central India. So you just click for preparing the failover. Once you do the failover, then Central India become a primary and South India become a secondary. Then you can able to access the storage account from Central India. So that way you can enable the geo replication. Okay. Once it's preparing the sync of the storage account, you can do the failovers. So that is called geo replication. Okay, this is also very important. If some of the users ask you to enable the geo replication, you should know about the prerequisites. Prerequisites should be the GRS should be enabled or geo zone and GRS also it should be enabled. Both anything it will be work for the geo replication. Okay, and what is the data protection? Data protection we have enabling the soft delete options, right? So if you want to delete the soft delete for the blob and the containers, you can enable this. So you can set for the retention for the 7 days, how you want to keep the the data post deletion. So undo option has to be enabled for as a soft delete. So you can enable for this and you can save that. So it will be enabled for blob and so container level soft delete option you can enable it. This can be enabled from while configuring the storage account also. So a later stage if you want to enable, you can enable from the data protection. Okay,
So after 7 days it will
permanently
deleted.
yes. Okay,
Okay.
and this
So
blob
how many days you want, you can mention there, right?
yeah, you can this is a custom option. How many days if you want, you can select this.
Okay. Okay.
And there's a blob inventory. So how
Any limitation, bro? No limitation.
sorry?
Any limitations in days?
No.
Means 10 days, 15 days, 20
Any
days.
limitations?
No.
We can
Okay.
give like how you want it. Like it's been 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, you can give it. So normally
Okay.
that much days, right? So normally we'll follow 7 days or 15 days or 30 days is a maximum.
Okay.
Okay. So if you give 1 year, right? If you deleted one storage account, okay. If you delete also, it will be stored in 1 month. So because of it has to once you if you want to restore, it has to be restored, right? So it has been the storing somewhere. Okay, that is managed by Microsoft. So that it will also it will be a cost. It will be additional cost for that. So that's why you don't need that So we have limited retention. We are keeping to save the undo option to if you have by accidentally deletion containers or blocks, you can able to retrieve within the retention period. Okay, and then is the this called a blob inventory. So how we have a VM inventory of the VM, same like that, it's been adding the rule to collect for all the blobs in one as an inventory. So this is not important. Okay, and this is a static website. So if you want to host the static website, so it will, the storage account, it will support to allow to host the static website. So like a static website page you want to host, so that you can use the this option. If you enable this, you can use that index document name and path. So you can that I mean to say that web page index name. So that way you can enable the static like web page for the website. Okay, this the details we give by the application team if they need, and you can just updating that details. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so normally we won't use when you are running the business, we won't use the static website. Some so small things they will use for the static websites. Okay, so normally our business cases we don't use, most of the cases they won't use for the static websites. And one more is this is also very important, people doesn't know about the life cycle management. So this is also very important option, life cycle management. So life cycle management is how you are managing the your like the data to kind of protecting, and after that how many days you're keeping, how many days that data has to be deleted. So data protection kind of things. Life cycle management is just you are creating a rule here. So how life cycle management will works, let me show you here. So once you add a rule here, so you can create a number of rules in the life cycle management. So how this rules is going to work, in a sense, I'm just giving the rule name as a archive. Okay, archiving data. So I'm allowing this archiving data. Okay, archiving data. Here, let me go for blob. So what are the things I'm going to do the lifecycle management using this in this rule? Okay, page basic blob and blob, or if you want to use the snapshots also you can use. Okay, if you go for test next, and here it will give the more than 30 days, sorry, more than days ago. So I'm giving as a 15 days. So here I'm selecting as a move to cold storage. See, so what this rule is going to do here, in the sense, so what are the blob and the data which are there in this blob storage, and respect to blob storage snapshot more than 15 days, if anything is there older more 15 days, any data snapshots on the blob data it is there, by default it will move to the cold storage. This cold storage you are not going to create any storage account, this is managed by the Microsoft. Okay, this data is going to move to the cold storage. So what is meant by hot tier and cold tier? We have discussed while creating a storage account, right? What is meant by hot tier and cold tier?
Yeah.
So hot tier is where you are frequently you are accessing a storage account. For that we choose the hot tier. Okay, wherever you are infrequently, you are not accessing the frequent data, and that kind of infrequent accessing data, so you can choose as a cold storage. Cold storage means nothing but archival data, where you are keeping data for a storing purpose. Okay, because of that you can use a cold type. That kind of storage account, it will be less cost compared to hot type. So that way, wherever you are infrequent accessing kind of data, you can use the cold type storage account. Cold type you can use it. Okay, so my rule is, if more than 15 days, then it has to move to the cold storage. So after than 15 days, what are the storage it's storing in the blob, that data I'm moving to the cold storage to reduce the cost. Okay, So this is one rule, and I'm adding another condition here. If more than 30 days, delete that blob. Right? Otherwise, I'm moving this. Move the archival storage. Okay, this is whole storage, and we have another call like a archival storage. Archival storage. Both are same actually. If you want to work that requires real-time read access to this blobs. Okay, only when you want to only read access, then it should not be read access for this called as archival storage. Okay. So, but currently I don't want this 30 days. Sorry, 15 days archival storage is fine, but I want to delete this completely that blob more than 30 days older. Okay, that time I can use this. Okay, so now what is going to happen here? If more than 15 days, it's moving to the cold storage. After that, if it's older than 30 days of the blob where it's been last modified, it's been 30 days, it's going to be delete that blob. Okay, that way I have set for this. And now for the snapshots also, more than 15 days, okay, to delete it. Okay, if more than older than 15 days, I'm asking to delete the blob snapshots. Okay, and I'm just creating the rule. So this way you have created a rule. Now what this rule is going to do? This rule is more than 15 days, what are the data it's been there in the blob, it's going to move into whole storage. Okay, and more than 30 days, it's going to be delete that last modified is more than 30 days, it's going to delete that blob. Because of we are not using, then we are going to delete it. So that way you can able to create the rules to manage the life cycle management. So you don't want to be keep on checking that, so which data is not last modified, which data is older data. So you don't want to verify, and coming to the storage account, you don't want to verify manually. So by if you create in the life cycle management, if you create a the rule, so this it will be taken by automatically. So you don't want to do manual. So for that life cycle management, we are creating a rules to do the life cycle management of the data of the storage accounts. So for that purpose, we are using the life cycle management. Suppose let me give the a scenario where what cases will choose the life cycle management. Another scenario. Suppose you have configured a backups to stored in the storage account. Okay. So once you configure the storage account, the backups to store. So every day it's in the taking the backup and storing the in the blob. Okay, blob storage. So where is the retention? You don't have retention to set that to be deleted. So every day it's keep on the taking the backup and storing into the blob storage. The files get increasing. Okay, so there is no retention can be available to set it. So for that you can set this. So more than older than 15 days data, you can move to archival or you can delete that. So that way, so you don't need to come and do manual check and manual deletion. So while using in the lifecycle management, if you create a rule, so automatically you can enable and to move the archival data, or you can delete that old data. So that purpose to do automation of retentions, we can use for the lifecycle management while adding the rules here. Okay, for that purpose we can use for the lifecycle management. And next is under the settings, we have a configurations. So we have already discussed about this all, like we have enabled the secure transaction record. If you enable, if you want to public access for the block, we have enabled this. And if you want to access keys method, you want to enable, we have to enable this. If you don't want, you can disable here. And here allow recommendation limited shared access key expiry interval is being disabled. If you want to enable, and you can disable. And we are active direct authentication we have disabled because of we are not using. And the TLS version based upon the application team or based upon the organization standards, which TLS versions you want to use. So there, that TLS versions we can use to secure. But normally we used to recommend to TLS version 1.2. If the storage account using for any application, then it's not supported, then it's required for version 0, 1.0 or one, you can set for that also. And I told you, right, in the post creation of the storage account, if you want to change the that cold tire or hot tire access tire, you can change here. Okay, now currently it's been cold, and if you want to change it to hot, and you can change it here, hot also. While clicking here, you can change to hot cold, and cold air to hot, and hot air to cold. You can change it in the configuration tab of the storage account. See, just I have just changed and I have saved it, and it's in just it's updating that changing the access type of that storage account. It's a fail. Oh, fail to update the storage account. The operation is currently performing the storage account that requires exclusive access. Okay. So we have created a rule for the archival more than 30 days, right? So that's why it was changed to pool. So that's why it's not allowing. Let me try again. If you can remove rule, like you can able to change it to hot type. See, this again fail. So it won't allow you if you have exclusive access storage account that requires exclusive access. Let me remove this city management. I think because of that only. If you enable the rule because of you are creating a choosing the RTL storage also, right? That's why it's not allowing this configuration actually. So if you remove that, I can let me check and let me remove it that. Or I think I can disable also that. Let me disable that. Oh, it's not allowing none of the operation. Okay, okay. I think due to the replication, it's happening. So still it's replicating. That's why we are unable to change that configuration. Okay, fine. No problem. If you want, I will show you another storage account also because of that is in replication mode, right? So it's operating operation is in performing. That's why it's not allowing. See, is an operation is currently is performing of the storage account. Okay, that's required exclusive access. So it's not allowing. There is some that replication operation is performing. That's why it's not allowing you to change that. Okay, so you can see here. Let me go to this storage account, and I will show you one more thing. If you want to let me, if you what kind of standard in what kind of version we have, like a general purpose one and general purpose two, you can see right here. You can see kind is showing as a storage general purpose. So in general purpose v1, it won't support for the additional features. Okay, so for that, even private endpoint also it won't support for general purpose one. Let me show you that actually. See, private endpoint is not there. Okay, so if you want to allow that private endpoint, then you have to migrate that storage account to general purpose v2. Okay, so how we can do that? How to migrate general purpose one to v1 to v2? You can directly change here, or you can go for the configuration. Here you can see it's showing as a kind is a general purpose v1, right? You can click here to upgrade to general purpose v2. Okay, for additional features just click here. It will ask you to agree for the hot and upgrade to general purpose 1 to v2. So while clicking this, your storage account, it will get the kind will get changed here. You can see now the it's changed to v2. Okay, now we can go and see the networking, and we will get the uh, private endpoint option. See, now we have the private endpoint option. Okay, and let me go for the configuration, and want to show you that hot and cold you can able to change. Okay, now I want to change it to cool also. You can able to change. See, you can able to change the hot to cold because of that storage account. Its replication is happening, so its operation is performing. That's why it's not allowing us to do. So that's why I'm showing in another storage account. Okay, so that way you can able to change the hot to cold access tier and cold to access tier, and the replication also you can able to change. Already we have changed to LRS to GRS, and if you want to change read access geo redundant also, if you want, you can change. Okay, that is called a configuration. Okay, and we have a resource sharing course option. So this also we won't use mostly actually, but you want to know that what is that. This is just a because is a feature for HTTP feature that enables the web application running under one domain to access for the other resources in another domain. Suppose you are enable the static website. Okay, that website is running in different domain, and if you want to enable that static website or the storage account to be accessed for the another web server for another domain, for that you can enable it here. Okay, you can use that for enabling. For allowing, we have a different methods actually. So using based upon the head or merge, post, or these options, or put or merge, for these options you can allow that the website to access this storage account. Okay, if we want to head that, we have to put that header name, and you can expose the header. What is the maximum size of this header value? So that age of that value. Okay, header age. So those we can allow. These details we will give by the application team if you want to access the storage account for the web application from another domain. So based upon the details, the blob or file, we can allow that allow methods, and we can access the web applications for the storage account. Okay, that is called the resource sharing of course. Okay, and we have a SFTP also, and I think just now I tried to create a SFTP, but I will tell you that how to access the SFTP. We can create a SFTP here. Let me show you. Let me buffer to load. I will show you that. Okay, so I've just now I created actually. So you can create another one. Let me have just, if you want to disable, you can disable SFTP here. Okay, or if you can enable, and you can enable SFTP here. So now currently it's been disabled SFTP, and if you want to enable SFTP feature for the storage account, you can enable by clicking here. So once you enable the SFTP, and you can add that user to SFTP. So how we are going to add that? Okay, let me try to get the username. Username is BHANU. So I can copy this name. Say copy. Okay, hold on. Let me try test. When you are a HUL875. I'm just giving the username here. And if you want to allow the SSH password as key pair, you can allow here. Okay, if you want to access using a key pair, you have to add the key. Okay, you have to generate the key. Okay, using existing public key or using private stored in Azure, or you can generate the key. You can do that, but if you're not using that, just using for the SSH password. I'm just generating. Here, I'm just creating the container here for
Here
that.
we need to take only one is enough or two need to take, bro?
Which one?
Here username plus authentication here, right? There you have authentication two options.
I didn't get the question.
There only one is enough or two you need to take.
So you for username you're telling. So the same
Yes,
is
yes, bro.
for authentication actually. That's why you are defining the username and authentication for the same user. This is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
here we need only SSH password.
Yeah, if you want, you can use the another one also. But we are if you
Okay.
only for Linux servers we use for access key pair, right? So that's why I'm not using. Even SSH password also,
Okay.
at least we can try this. That's why I'm using SSH password. Okay. So anyhow, so we are using the mount for the line of Windows.
Okay, okay.
How we are mounting the file shares in the Windows server, same like that. We are trying to use for the SSH password method.
Username password.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can the container here if you want. Demo SFTP. Okay, it's not allowing possible. Okay, and you can create this. And if you have what permissions you want, let me give all permissions. And if you have a home directory, it can give. If it doesn't have anything, okay, that's fine. We have a test if there's one folder, right? So you don't have any home directory, you are not created in the SFTP. So this act like a home directory. Now we are just adding it. So this way you can enable, what is this? Fail to create a local user with this name is not valid username. Username must be 3 to 64 characters length. Username lower must be unique to the storage account. Lowercase letters only. And should be characters 3 to 64 characters balance. Use the numbers and use numbers and lower characters. Okay, must be unique with in the storage account. Okay. So I'm giving Banu then. Okay, I'm just adding it. So, but how we can access using SSH, I will tell you later. Okay, I'm just telling you enabling and creating that local user. Okay, this local user creating in the SFTP. Okay, and I'm going to add it. So that's why you can able to add, and this is the password of SSH. Okay, let me copy that, and I will paste in somewhere here. Okay, this is the key, and username is what is the username? Banu. Okay, what is the username? Yeah, Banu. So this is the username. So I will tell you. So today we have exceeded the time. So I'll tell you to how to access this is tomorrow. Okay, but this way you can able to create the we can enable the SFTP for the storage account, and you can create a local user for this and create the containers for the local user. Okay, if you want to regenerate the password, you can regenerate. After that, if you forgot and you want to regenerate the new password, then you can generate it. Okay, and currently we have not set for the home directory. Okay, and this is the what we have done, and then we how to access, I will tell you later this one. Okay, to SFTP how to access it. This is also new feature actually. Before we don't have SFTP on the storage account. Okay. Okay, do you have any questions here? So tomorrow we'll discuss other options here. Maybe tomorrow we'll complete it quickly for this option. It won't take much.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have any questions? Yeah.
No, nothing, bro. How to connect SMTP, you can tell tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, bro. Fine.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, bro. Bye.